In today's Our Region's Business Online Extra, we're continuing to focus on our region's response to COVID-19 across a variety of industries. Today, the funeral business. The pandemic has made it much harder for grieving families to say goodbye, and Frank Perman is the owner of Perman Funeral Home in Shaler, Allegheny County. And Frank, welcome, good to see you.
Thank you, I appreciate you having me, Bill.
Yeah, and I imagine over the last few weeks, you've been living this, you've been experiencing this with so many families. What are you seeing out there in terms of the way the dynamics have changed around saying goodbye?
Well, the biggest thing that we're seeing is that families aren't really gathering like they normally would for a funeral. We're seeing a lot more of a direct disposition of a deceased, whether it's cremation or a burial. And then there's the family are going to schedule something for later after this is over, when family and friends can get together to say goodbye to each other.
Yeah, but when when you have a loss like that, and it doesn't matter who it is, it's a deep loss to everybody involved. Not being able to be surrounded by your family, your friends, other loved ones, even your colleagues from work, I would think just makes the whole process that much more difficult.
Oh, absolutely, it makes it more difficult. However, funeral homes and funeral directors are handling things differently. For example, today, I'm actually going to have a public visitation. But what we did is we set a schedule. We asking people to call us, set a time. This is your time. Once again, one, I want to make sure that there's less than 10 people in the building. And me, I'm one of the 10. So I'm very careful with how many people are going to be here. And we expanded the hours from 2 to 8 today. And we're allowing people to come, but is it going to be typical? No, not at all. Some funeral directors are not doing public visitations at all. Some aren't even allowing the families to come see their deceased. They're not allowing them to see their loved one. Wow. And then as bad as it's been is if somebody was in a medical facility, they are they're not being seen anyway because nursing homes and some of the facilities are locked down. So they don't see them for 2, 3, 4 weeks prior. The death occurs, and now there's nothing after. So there's this long period of time where people don't know how, they haven't seen their mother, they haven't seen their father, they haven't seen anybody. And that person who died was by themselves. Once again, there was no support from the family. So this is we're in uncharted territory.
Yeah, and you wonder about, how much more difficult and lasting it's going to make the grieving process be for the people who are, in this circumstance.
Yes, grief delay can cause issues in and of itself. One is when grief is fresh, then there's a tendency to gather. That's when people get together. But when it's not fresh, it's like, oh, okay, mom died 5 months ago or 4 months ago. People are going to go like, oh, they should be moving on now. Maybe, but then again, maybe not. You don't know.
Any advice you would have for those of us who want to be supportive and helpful for our friends, family, loved ones, colleagues who find themselves in this situation? Anything we could or should be doing that we might not normally think about?
I would say to people right now, stay in touch with the survivors. Stay in touch. That's the most important thing. Again, under the circumstances, we still have to stay separate. But think of things like, instead of flowers at this time, food or just something simple of, a card. Just send a sympathy card. Just say, hey, we will get together. We will be understanding. We will pull this together at some point.
No, that's a good point. Being there virtually for them now, but I think also making it a point when that memorial service finally takes place to show up and not just assume because time has passed that maybe you don't need to make the effort the way you would have if it was immediately after the person passed away.
Exactly. Exactly. The need is still going to be there. And at that point, the physical touch, the hug, the kiss is going to be even more important.
Well, Frank Perman from Perman Funeral Home, thanks for everything you're trying to do to make this very challenging circumstance somewhat easier for folks who are in the middle of it. And hopefully we can all learn a little bit about how to help and be more supportive through this crisis and beyond. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate you having me.
I'm Bill Flanagan, and that's today's Online Extra.